Hey, and welcome to the channel. I'm here to answer your question. What's the score? Hi, and welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about UFC 205, one of the biggest events in UFC history. I would say, at least. I mean,
it's a big one
yeah.
for sure.
I'm here with a special guest today, my older brother.
What's up?
He's here to provide some information, some insight into the fighting world.
Some analysis, one might.
Yeah. First of all, we're going to have to talk about the significance of UFC 205 because it is being held in New York City.
Not just in New York City, in Madison Square Garden. A historic combat sports event where Ali fought. I'm pretty sure Tyson's fought there. It's got a big history with combat sports, and it's just great performers.
It's pretty appropriate, the background.
We've got a good background going.
Nice background.
I believe it's either the George Washington or Brooklyn
So if
Bridge.
any of you are questioning my brother's credentials or anything, I mean, he's going to tell you quickly, very shortly.
Just a quick summary is
what he's studied over the years.
Yes. So as a kid, I started with kickboxing, taekwondo, and wrestling. Sanda or Sanshou kickboxing, which is a Chinese modern kickboxing form. It's very effective. And then when we moved to Singapore, I wanted to continue fighting, and I found a Muay Thai school, and then from Muay Thai I found an MMA gym, and I actually found some killer gyms at Evolve for a while and a couple other places. But for all my jiu-jitsu nerds out there, I'm a Henzo guy. That's the first time I rolled with a Henzo Gracie black belt, so that's my lineage. I do no-gi for about 4 or 5 years before that with MMA. But I wanted to put on the gi to get the belts. And then obviously Muay Thai, I actually used to teach Muay Thai in Singapore at a Sitio Tong gym, so that can give you a little indication of where my Muay Thai is at. And and then I obviously study everything else with MMA, wrestling, boxing, whatever. But I still do it currently here in Finland at a very prestigious gym. Shout out to Espoon Kehaheit.
Yep. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. I mean, that'll help us get some insight on the fights coming up. I mean, first of all, the biggest thing about this card is all the huge fights that are on this card. I mean, there's three championship fights on this one card in New York.
Just a couple really quick facts is that it's already broken attendance records, gate records, all kinds of records. I mean, it's the first time in Madison Square Garden. The card is stacked. I don't think I've ever seen a card that's been this good. Almost every fight.
I mean, there's so many fights in this that we want to go over, but I mean, unfortunately, due to time.
Yeah, it's gonna go a long time if I get into it all.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're just gonna do the main card. If anyone's upset by this,
sorry, Khabib.
Please leave it in the.
Sorry.
Yeah, we're just gonna start off with the first main card.
So
number one, Miesha Tate versus Raquel Pennington. Miesha Tate ranked number 1 in her division, the bantamweight division, I believe.
The women's bantamweight division.
Yes. Raquel Pennington, 8th ranked in the division. As you can see from the record, Miesha Tate clearly has a lot more experience in this.
She's been around the block. She was Strikeforce champion. She's been in there with the best, including Rousey and Holly Holm, who she beat for the title.
Yeah. Miesha Tate has been up there.
She's been around for a while.
Yeah.
Big MMA fans know her.
Raquel Pennington, I mean, I personally haven't heard too much about her. I mean, she looks like she could hold her own looking at these stats. I mean, apparently I've heard she's quite a good boxer.
She's got some great hands. She's scrappy. She's very aggressive, forward marching, sort of scrappy, in-your-face boxer.
And that can surprise some people sometimes. I mean,
yeah, Miesha likes to create a lot of space, use her wrestling. She likes to make sure she has the fight where she feels the most comfortable. So just to quickly summarize, I think that Miesha is gonna try and create space with her wrestling. She's gonna try and keep it where she's most comfortable, and if it feels like she's not comfortable on the feet, she's going to take her down and grind her up.
Very mixed martial arts there.
Yes. Yeah. Very MMA approach to the fight.
So, who are we backing to win this fight? I want to say Miesha Tate right off the bat.
I'm going to go with Miesha just because I've been a fan for a long time. I like the way she fights. She never gives up. Like, she was losing to Holly Holm by rounds, and she just refused to give up, and she said, you know what, I can't fight safe. I gotta go for it, and props to Holly, she stayed in there as well, but Miesha just came out of nowhere and got the victory, and she's always in it to win it, and and her striking is very good. I think her striking game is underrated, her submission game is good, and her wrestling is excellent. And I think Raquel Pennington, while she's a good boxer, she's scrappy, she's got decent wrestling, decent Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, all the things you need as an
She doesn't
adult.
have the experience or the skill level.
Yeah.
That one. Next up is Kelvin Gastelum versus Donald Cerrone, the 5th and the 6th ranked fighters in the, I believe it is welterweight division.
Yes, Cowboy.
Really quick, we had a pretty long thing about Kelvin Gastelum and Donald Cerrone, but due to events after we recorded this, we're just going to cut this one short because they're not actually fighting, as Kelvin Gastelum did not make weight for the fight, so there will most likely not be a Donald Cerrone fight at all, unfortunately for him.
So moving on to
wagon.
Chris Weidman, the number 2 ranked fighter, and Yoel Romero, in the number 4 ranked fighter in which division?
This is the middleweight division. Chris
division.
Weidman being the former UFC middleweight champion and the person to dethrone the great Anderson Silva.
That is a hell of a feat.
Yeah. Anderson Silva is like from the Matrix.
Yeah, he was one of the most dominant fighters in the UFC for a very long time.
The way he fought is just like there's something different about it. And Weidman just he didn't fall for all the stuff. He didn't buy into the mystique.
It smart.
He played it smart, and then when he saw an opening, he cracked him. And as we all know, as you get older, your chin starts to go with all the hits you've taken. So that could have affected it because Anderson Silva is like 45 now, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Quickly, just looking at the record here, I mean, just glancing at it, you can see the records are almost identical. Chris Weidman has 2 more wins. I think experience-wise, these guys are in a pretty similar area.
And I mean they're very similar in some ways and very different in other ways. Like they're both wrestlers.
Well,
Yoel Romero being an Olympic silver medalist. I think Chris Weidman is All-American. I don't remember how many times, but he's a college All-American, which is
interestingly,
an easy feat.
Yoel Romero doesn't have any submission wins under his belt, actually.
So that just quickly on their styles, Yoel Romero, though he is a great wrestler and he's just a beast of a person, like I'm not sure he's human.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like word is still out.
If you look at him,
he doesn't look human. He looks like an action figure and a god.
Yeah.
Just merged.
You wouldn't pick a fight with this guy, even if you didn't know how to fight.
But Yoel Romero, despite being a very good wrestler, he tends to use the wrestling as kind of like a panic button or like a ace in the hole sort of card, where if he's not going well on the feet, there's nothing else he can do, he'll take him down and throw him around.
But more just to recover.
Yeah, but he's for such a huge person, he's very bouncy, he's very on his feet, and he likes to load up on his strikes and really lean back and kind of bounce off his back foot and really load up on that right hand. So Chris is going to have to watch out for that. Now, interestingly enough, again, you kind of need space to load up on those strikes. You need to get the distance and the angling right, whereas Chris Weidman, again, is one of those in-your-face sort of fighters. He's not going to let you breathe or even think or even just look in another direction. Chris Weidman will be there no matter what, and he can stuff you up with his wrestling. He's a jiu-jitsu black belt, a Renzo Gracie black belt, might I add, through Matt Serra. He's very good. His striking is actually pretty good. Like, I'll give him props. I think for this fight, I'm gonna say it's a pick'em fight. Like a lot of these, like anything can happen. Obviously,
this one is really tough to call. But
I think if Chris can kind of if Chris can just stay in his face and make it a grinding, dirty dog fight, and Yoel really can't load up on that right hand or really get enough space to really just get all his huge, just crazy muscle body into it, I think Chris has a chance.
Yeah.
But there's always that huge one punch from Yoel that just could end it all.
As a fan of the sport, I mean, I just want to say that this one is incredibly hard to pick, but I mean, I'm going to add Yoel Romero here because, I don't know, I just like him a bit more.
I'm going to actually give it to Weidman because while I think Rockhold definitely beat him for the title, I think he's coming back from his first loss ever, from losing his title. He's going to come back with a vengeance.
The next one is a championship fight.
First title fight of the night.
Strawweight women's division.
That's right.
We have the champion, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, and
oh God,
the number 2 contender, Karolina
Kowalski. I've heard it pronounced so many times, but it's a tough one to say. You'll see it on the screen. You'll see it on the screen, but
first thing, again, the record's almost identical. with Jędrzejczyk with 2 more wins, both
Yes.
undefeated in the division. So someone's going home with a
They're
tainted
both
record.
undefeated in the UFC, but I know for a fact that Joanna is a multiple-time world Muay Thai champion.
Yeah.
And you can see it when she's striking. Her striking is technically it's work of art. It's a pleasure to watch, especially for me, who I tend to watch striking from a very technical standpoint because I that's how I fight as well. I'm a very technical striker, so I tend to have to kind of watch the technique, the footwork, the placement of the strikes, the real getting into the kicks with the hips and everything. And Joanna just does everything perfectly. Now, Karolina is kind of also great Muay Thai from Karolina. I will not take anything away from her, but she's a slow starter. She likes to ease into the first round, kind of feel her opponent out, see what's like. All right, this is what's up. Let's see what's happening. Joanna, on the other hand, is going to walk you down and just beat you until you're against the fence. And when you're on the fence, she's going to cut off every escape angle and she's going to pick you apart.
Yeah, I think in that sense,
And that's a
Joanna
scary
has
thought.
probably a slight edge here because, I mean, if she comes out just flying and swinging...
Well, Joanna is a fast starter.
Yeah,
She's
exactly.
gonna throw
Against a slow
leg kicks.
starter.
She's gonna throw beautiful hand combos. If she sees the knockout or the finish, she's gonna go for it.
If Jędrzejczyk can end it early, I think she's got it in the bag easily. But
Yeah.
I think if it lasts 2 or 3 rounds more, then, I mean, it'll be a real good fight. I mean,
Yeah.
it should last for a while then.
Well, I think if it gets into the later rounds, Karolina gets more and more aggressive, which gives her it gives her advantage and disadvantage. There's a chance she might get. So Karolina can either catch Joanna or get caught herself because when she gets more aggressive, she also gets a little weird. She puts her hands down, she just marches forward, and you can't march forward with your hands down against a striker like Joanna. There's just too many options for her there.
So, I think we're probably backing Joanna Jędrzejczyk
Oh, I'm
in
definitely
this.
for Jędrzejczyk.
This is probably the winner for us there. Next up is a really exciting fight, the welterweight title. Tyrone
right.
Woodley versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson.
And this is a ridiculous fight because this is a kind of anything can happen fight because it's basically power versus versatility, I would say.
Yeah.
Because while Tyrone Woodley is very versatile, he's an excellent wrestler, collegiate wrestler. He's got good Muay Thai, excellent boxing. Even his ground game is solid. He's very good. But the thing with him is his power. He's so explosive as an athlete.
If you're not even a fan of the UFC or fighting in general, you still don't want to miss this fight. It's going to be incredible. I mean,
yeah, because on the other end we have Stephen Wonderboy Thompson.
he's done some of the most extravagant things in the UFC.
I mean, you can use it to hurt as well if you're just crazy powerful and very technical. But your jab is mainly to get your distance down. Kind of feel like, okay, this is where I can hit him. This is where he can't hit me as easily. And then I can, do other things. So Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, he uses his leg like a jab. He does his side kick and he gets that distance. He's like, all right, here's where I'm good. And then he angles in with his punches. But then when he actually is in the pocket, he can kind of find that angle and throw a hook kick.
Right.
So when he's exchanging with his punches, depending on where in the cage we are, Woodley's going to want to angle out and get his own shot in. But as he's angling out, he's so good at just moving his leg up from that spot and going tsh. So he knows how to keep his range. He knows how to get attacks from anywhere with any kind of technique. But with Tyrone, it only takes one.
Very in-depth analysis there.
With Tyrone, it's one shot and you're in Dunsville.
Looking at the record, firstly, it's very similar. I mean,
Yeah,
that doesn't
pretty
stand
close.
out too much, but the
13
thing that
and 1's a
sticks
pretty
out
good record.
mostly is how much more versatile Tyrone looks in the stats, at least. I mean,
Yeah.
I think what he probably needs to do is take Thompson down. I mean, probably.
That's an option for sure, but Stephen Wonderboy has been training his takedown defense with Chris Weidman, who's also on the card, so he's getting very good at it. But again, Tyrone can take you down. But I think actually what it's going to be is Tyrone's going to look for that power shot. He's going to set up, he's going to use his wrestling, he's going to use his aggression to really get Wonderboy uncomfortable and kind of be in his face so Wonderboy can't set up all this fancy stuff.
Yeah.
Because like with Anthony Pettis or any kind of dynamic striker, you need that space. If you're very technical and very dynamic, you can't do those techniques unless you set them up correctly and you have that distance.
Yeah.
So I think Tyrone's going to break that angle in, and Tyrone's very good at angling in with that power shot. He does this kind of thing where he comes one to the body and then he comes over the top, or he'll fake one, fake a step, get you to move where he wants, and then he comes with the overhand right, and that overhand right could punch through cement.
So, who are we backing for Woodley versus Thompson? It's so hard when
I don't know.
just
I honestly can't
fights.
back anybody. It's a pick 'em fight. I'm happy with the result either way because now that Cowboy's in welterweight, I think it would be ridiculous to see Wonder Boy and Cowboy duke it out.
I mean, if you're a fan of the sport, if you're a fan
This
of
is
just
just
fighting,
a
this is a
great
great
fight.
fight.
This is one of those, like, you don't just get these fights.
Yeah.
It's a great one.
Now, moving on to the main event, the lightweight title
fight. Yes.
Eddie Alvarez versus Conor McGregor, the notorious one.
McGregor. Now Conor has just transcended the sport. With Conor, the thing about him is that he's very deceptive in the way that he throws a lot of especially in the beginning of the fight, especially at featherweight, he threw a lot of very fancy kicks. One time I think against Dustin Poirier, he opened up with a hook kick.
Yeah.
And but if you watch those kicks, and don't get me wrong, he can put power in those kicks for sure. He has an excellent spinning back kick to the body. It's very effective. But what he does with those big fancy kicks a lot of times is he's herding you like a shepherd. He's using those kicks to get you to come in on the angles that he wants. He knows what angles you're going to cut when he throws that kick. And then when he gets that angle, he's going to angle out, get his own angle, and hit with that piston of a left hand. His left hand shot is it's a murder. It's, as Faraz Sahabi from TriStar MMA says, it's the touch of death.
Yeah, I mean, I think this fight is incredibly hard to call. One of the harder ones on the card, I think.
Because Eddie has that same knockout power. He can hit you with one shot and it's bye-bye.
I mean, it can go either way in an instant. One of the biggest things here is that they're both holding a belt. I think this is going to weigh in a lot on the mental side of things.
Yeah, Conor is the featherweight champion, so if he wins, he will be the first fighter in UFC history to be a two-weight world champion. It's never been done before.
That's pretty cool.
There have been fighters who have been champions in two different divisions, but never at the same time. Yeah. It's never been done.
So I think Conor, I don't know, I mean...
Looking at you, BJ Penn.
I think Conor might want this even more.
Oh yeah, and I think he's very prepared. He's become very methodical against preparing for specific opponents, bringing in
especially
Dylan
after
Dennis.
his first loss. I mean,
yeah, after losing to Nate Diaz, he got very much more technical in his preparation. He brought in Dylan Dennis, a ridiculous jiu-jitsu player. He brought in some wrestling partners, some sparring partners. And with Eddie, it's again kind of like Eddie either has to find that big shot or he has to grind Conor out with that wrestling. And if that happens, Conor has had a little trouble with takedown defense, but it's gotten very much better with Dylan Dennis. So if Conor can find his footwork, find his angles, and find his counter strikes, if he can find that counter left that he does so beautifully, like he did against Aldo, where he kind of steps back and then he cracks you with it.
That left hand is killer.
What he'll want to do is either counter Eddie off those huge shot attempts, or he's going to want to walk Eddie with his kicks to the cage and then find that angle, close every exit, and then find that where he can really load up and hit him with that. He's a very technical boxer. I don't people give him enough credit for his boxing. He's very, very methodical in his punches. He almost has like a Floyd Mayweather-ish. And again, with Conor, it's a little bit different. He doesn't have exactly the kind of bladed stance that Wonderboy does, but he has a little bit more of a sideways stance. He's not exactly he's not a Thai fighter. He's never going to come in with the square stance, very straight. He's always kind of moving up and down, moving around you, hitting you with those kicks, and then trying to set up that left hand for the knockout.
Yeah, but still, it's a really tough one to call. I think all that we can do is wait and see what happens.
Oh yeah. This is got it. What part?
I love him. I mean, just watching his press conferences are hilarious.
And
so
that's why. But then again, you got Eddie Alvarez, the underground king, the old school. He's his OG. He's been around the block. He's dream champion.
I mean, because we're fans, I think we're gonna want to back McGregor, but it can really go either way.
I kind of want to back both of them. I wish they could both win, but I just want to see what happens. Like whose shit talking is gonna pay off.
Yeah.
And honestly, just for the historic value, I would love to see Conor win 2 belts because it's never happened before. So it would be a crazy thing to see.
Very interesting.
But you never know with Conor, and you never know with Eddie. Like
the ending and the outro and stuff filmed for the video, but we lost some of the footage. I don't know how, but yeah, that happened.
We're still new with this.
But anyway, all right. So what does McGregor have to do to take this fight?
All right. Well, McGregor has to basically allow himself to herd Alvarez into the position that he can land that killer left hand while avoiding Eddie's big overhand rights, his takedowns, and his kind of grinding out, not giving Conor any space. So Conor has to keep distance, find his angles, hurt him in with those kicks, and once he has, cut off all escape routes, and then
All right. So
hit
now
the left hand.
I think Alvarez is gonna have to try and work for that takedown to win this fight.
I think Eddie has knockout power in his hands as well, but if he finds that Conor is just too good of a counter striker, too good at moving around, while Eddie does have excellent footwork as well, I think his best bet would be to use his wrestling, which is obviously better than Conor's, and grind him out, and then when Conor's tired from all the defense and everything, then hit him with that overhand right.
All right. So basically, in the end, this one is impossible to call. We're gonna call
It's a
it
pretty pick-em
yeah,
fight.
Well, I mean, yeah, pick who you want. We don't know who's gonna win. We just gotta wait and see. I'm really excited to watch the fight.
I'm more than excited. I don't think I've ever been this excited.
Yeah. Now you know what the score is.
Please like, comment, and subscribe.
Share it with a friend.